Before Carthage scorched Roman memory and Hannibal carved his name across the Alps, there were the Phoenicians, an elusive seafaring people whose legacy stretched far beyond the bounds of their city walls. Their homeland, a sliver of coastline in modern-day Lebanon, was a cradle of maritime ingenuity. From Tyre and Sidon, they built empires not with armies but with sails, not with swords but with silver. The Mediterranean was their marketplace and their battlefield. Their ships crisscrossed the sea, bartering cedar, glass, purple dye, and mythologies. They brought alphabets to Greece and tin from the Isles. They didn't conquer land, they conquered time. Even today, our letters whisper their names. Carthage was their greatest offspring. But to understand Carthage, we must first understand the world that birthed it. By the second millennium BC, Tyre had risen as the crown jewel of Phoenicia. Though hemmed in by rival empires, Egypt to the south, Hatti to the north, and eventually Assyria to the east, the Phoenicians thrived by doing what their neighbors could not: sailing. They didn't just navigate the sea, they mastered it. With the invention of the bireme and trireme, they revolutionized naval design. Their purple dye, extracted from the murex snail, became a symbol of royalty, and with every trade route they forged, Phoenician culture spread, quietly, efficiently, like ink soaking into parchment. While Assyrian armies were smashing cities inland, the Phoenicians built colonies far from the reach of empires. From Cyprus to Sicily, from Malta to the coast of North Africa, their harbors dotted the map like runes of a forgotten language. Among them, one outpost would become more powerful than any Phoenician city before it. Carthage, Kart Hadasht, new city, wasn't just another colony. Founded, according to tradition, in 814 BC, it grew rapidly into a strategic node of trade and influence. Situated in a near-perfect harbor in modern-day Tunisia, it commanded the central Mediterranean with ease. So, the myth says Dido, fleeing her brother Pygmalion after he murdered her husband, founded the city through guile, offering to buy as much land as could be encircled by a bull's hide, then cutting the hide into thin strips to claim an entire hill. Fact or fable, it revealed something core to the Phoenician spirit: cunning over conquest, calculation over chaos. In truth, Carthage was more than myth. From its early days, it was a hybrid, part Tyrian, part African, a new Phoenician experiment on foreign shores. And from its harbors, a new empire would rise, not led by kings, but by merchant councils and powerful families. By the 6th century BC, Carthage had begun to eclipse its mother cities in wealth and ambition. As Tyre and Sidon fell under Persian dominion, Carthage grew freer, and honestly, bolder. It absorbed Phoenician colonies across North Africa, southern Spain, Sardinia, and western Sicily. No longer content with trade alone, Carthage began to project power. Its navy rivaled any in the Mediterranean. Its political structure, an oligarchic republic dominated by aristocratic families, allowed for continuity and control. And unlike Rome, it placed no premium on citizen soldiers. Carthage outsourced its wars to mercenaries. This pragmatism would become both its greatest strength and its fatal flaw. From the markets of Gadir to the temples of Motia, Carthage ruled a loose network of colonies, vassals, and ports. But, it also forged rivalries, most notably with the Greeks of Sicily, and soon with a rising power from across the sea Rome. Religion in Carthage mirrored its Phoenician past, but with darker undertones. Baal, Hammon, and Tanit, gods of fertility and fire, dominated the Carthaginian pantheon. Rituals were elaborate, temples wealthy, sacrifices, perhaps even of children, were offered to ensure favor from the divine. Whether myth, propaganda, or fact, Roman writers would later weaponize these stories to justify the city's destruction. Carthage's economy was sophisticated. Its silver mines in Iberia, its agricultural estates in Africa, and its vast merchant fleet ensured wealth flowed steadily to the ruling elite. Governance lay in the hands of the suffetes, elected magistrates similar to Roman consuls, and a council of elders known as the 100. The balance between commerce and conquest, between religion and reason, held for a time. But Carthage's reliance on trade routes meant that every rival, Greek, Roman, or native, was a threat to its arteries of survival. And so, from traders, they became tyrants. By the 6th century BC, a single family began to dominate Carthaginian affairs, the Magonids. Mago I, the patriarch, was a military reformer and empire builder. Under his rule and that of his successors, Carthage adopted a new posture: aggressive, expansionist, and honestly, unapologetically militaristic. The Magonids saw Carthage not merely as a trading post, but as the nucleus of an empire. They expanded into western Sicily, Sardinia, and the Balearic Islands. They fortified cities, levied new taxes, and expanded the mercenary armies that had long been Carthage's sword. But their greatest contribution may have been their navy. The Magonid admirals turned Carthage into the mistress of the western Mediterranean. Greek merchants came to resent this hegemony, and Greek tyrants, especially those in Sicily, saw it as a provocation. The stage was set for a century of bloodshed. Sicily was a jewel both Carthage and the Greeks wanted. Its rich soil, deep harbors, and strategic location turned it into a magnet for colonists and conquerors alike. Greek city-states like Syracuse, Selinus, and Agrigentum came into conflict with Carthaginian outposts, leading to a series of brutal wars. These weren't wars of ideology. They were contests of trade, terrain, and tribute. Carthaginian generals, often Magonids or their allies, landed massive armies on the island, some numbering in the tens of thousands, composed of Libyan infantry, Iberian swordsmen, Gallic mercenaries, and Numidian cavalry. The Greeks responded with hoplites, naval blockades, and daring raids. Battles like Himera in 480 BC were catastrophic. There, a Carthaginian force under Hamilcar was decisively defeated by a Greek alliance. Ironically, in the same year the Greeks repelled Persia at Salamis. Hamilcar reportedly threw himself into the flames of his own burning ship, but Carthage did not retreat. If anything, it learned. It rebuilt its fleets, it paid for better mercenaries, and it returned to Sicily again and again, unwilling to cede its position in the Western Sea. By the 4th century BC, Carthage was no longer a shadow of Tyre. It was a titan in its own right. Its control over Western Mediterranean trade routes was unrivaled. Its coinage, stamped with the visage of Tanit or the prow of a galley, circulated as far as Britain. Its merchants were legends. Its generals feared. But with expansion came instability. The Magonids were eventually replaced by rival aristocratic families. Political factions began to fracture the elite. Popular generals, like Hamilcar Barca in later centuries, would come to challenge the authority of the council itself. Carthage had become what it once feared, a land empire masked as a maritime one. It ruled not by persuasion, but by tribute and force. Yet even as it tightened its grip, it began to lose what had once made it great: its subtlety, its adaptability, its Phoenician restraint. In the end, Carthage was both a reflection and a distortion of Phoenicia. Where Tyre had survived by weaving through the power struggles of greater empires, Carthage challenged those empires head-on. Where Phoenicians had fled to avoid war, Carthaginians built their wealth on the backs of it. They became what the world demanded: hard, wealthy, militarized, and feared. But the sea, once their shield, would not protect them forever. Across the water, Rome was watching. The legacy of the Phoenicians, carried in the hulls of Carthaginian ships and the coins of her merchants, was about to face its greatest trial. Though Carthage would one day fall, its legacy, like that of its Phoenician forebears, would ripple through time. The Carthaginian harbour complex, with its circular military dockyards, remains one of the ancient world's greatest engineering feats. Its maritime laws, merchant customs, and naval logistics influenced Rome itself. Its story, a tale of traders turned tyrants, would echo in empires yet unborn. And beneath it all, the Phoenician soul endured. Not in flags or temples, but in alphabets, trade networks, and the silent hum of ships over open waters. If this journey through the forgotten empire of the Phoenicians has sparked your imagination, consider joining us on our path through history. Like, subscribe, and share to keep the ancient world alive. one empire at a time. Next, we'll return to Carthage's heart, with the Maganid dynasty, lords of the Western Sea. Don't miss it.